Hello Saints, and welcome to Sound Biblical Doctrine. Today's teaching is going to be an explanation of the 2021 timeline video that I've done. So this is the timeline that I've done for 2021. I have the verses that correspond to the points on the timeline. So for example, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We have here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. These are the verses that correspond to these different actions on the timeline, but in a lot of the cases it's not clear from reading the verses why it corresponds to what's on the timeline. So that's what today's video is going to be about. I'm going to be going over the scriptures and expounding upon them, looking further into them and seeing how we can arrive at this picture about what the 2021 Bible code is and what God has shown us through it. So before I begin, we're going to look at the key here. It's a little color-coded key, just so you can understand, so it doesn't appear too random when you're following along with me. So in black, all the text in black is going to be the 2021 scriptures, i.e. these ones here. But when it's with the notes, they're just going to be in black. So like, here we go, Exodus 2021. Like in the straight verses with no notes next to it, there's going to be a number above each verse, as in here. On this one, just to give it a bit of distinction, I've put the numbers in green, and they will be the numbers along this part here, 1 to 16 of the 2021 timeline. Now, any scriptures that are directly related to these ones in black, they'll be in blue, and then my commentary and other scriptures that I feel God has convicted me about to mention, they will be in red. Okay, so let's start off with the first scripture, and that is Exodus chapter 20 verse 21. And the people stood afar off, and Moses drew near unto the thick darkness where God was. Now, when I was reading this, around about the time I was studying into this, I was reading the book of Psalms, and this verse was something that stood out to me. I felt God convict me about it. So we have Psalm 97 verses 1 to 4. The Lord reigneth, let the earth rejoice, but the multitude of isles be glad thereof. Clouds and darkness are round about him. Righteousness and judgment are the habitation of his throne. A fire goeth before him, and burneth up his enemies round about. His lightnings enlightened the world, the earth saw and trembled. So we can see here that with God, clouds and darkness are round about him. We specifically have mentioned here thick darkness. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at thick darkness in the Bible, see where it's mentioned, and we're going to study those verses and see if we can garner anything from them, if there's a kind of common denominator, a common theme that's going through all these verses. So I did a search for them, and there were like, for thick darkness, and there was kind of like more than 5 occurrences, but 5 themes that came up to do with thick darkness. Okay, so the first one was the 9th or penultimate plague of Egypt. We had the thick darkness in the mountain with Moses. We had the thick darkness in the temple of Solomon. We have thick darkness in the beginning of creation to bind up the sea. And we have thick darkness in the day of wrath. So let's go through those one at a time. The first one is Exodus chapter 10 verses 21 to 23. And the Lord said unto Moses, stretch out thine hand toward heaven, that there may be darkness over the land of Egypt, even darkness which may be felt. And Moses stretched forth his hand toward heaven, and there was a thick darkness in all the land of Egypt 3 days. They saw not one another, neither rose any from his place for 3 days. But all the children of Israel had light in their dwellings. Okay, so we can see that when they were called out, you know that Moses went before Pharaoh, and every time it was like, yes, no, you can't leave. Every time Pharaoh would say, yeah, you could leave, and then Moses would go back and Pharaoh would change his mind. God would bring some kind of plague upon the land of Egypt. And the second last plague was the thick darkness for 3 days. So we'll talk a little bit more about that as we go, but I just want to get through the 5 occurrences or different times when thick darkness is mentioned, okay? So the second one we have is in the mountain with Moses. We read about this in Deuteronomy 5 verses 22 and 23. These words the Lord spake unto all your assembly in the mount of the midst of the fire of the cloud and of the thick darkness, with a great voice, and he added no more. And he wrote them in 2 tables of stone, and delivered them unto me. And it came to pass, when ye heard the voice out of the midst of the darkness, for the mountain did burn with fire, that ye came near unto me, even all the heads of your tribes and your elders. When Moses went into the mountain before the Lord's presence was like a thick darkness. Okay, so moving on, we have the thick darkness in the Temple of Solomon. We have 2 verses we're going to look at that confirm this. First of all, we have 1 Kings chapter 8, verses 10 to 13. And it came to pass, when the priests were come out of the holy place, that the cloud filled the house of the Lord, so that the priests could not stand to minister because of the cloud, for the glory of the Lord had filled the house of the Lord. Then spake Solomon, The Lord said that he would dwell in the thick darkness. I have surely built thee an house to dwell in, a settled place for thee to abide in forever. And then we have 2 Chronicles 6, verses 1 and 2. Then said Solomon, The Lord hath said he would dwell in the thick darkness, but I have built an house of habitation for thee, and a place for thy dwelling forever. So you notice that in both of these occurrences, the Lord will dwell in the thick darkness, but Solomon's built him a house. Okay, so I'm pretty sure you know where this is going, but keep that in your mind. We're going to look at the next 2 occurrences, or next 2 kind of themes to do with thick darkness, and then we're going to recap and try and come up with a picture, okay? So we have now Job 38, verses 4 to 11. Where wast thou when I laid the foundations of the earth? Declare, if thou hast understanding. Who hath laid the measure thereof, if thou knowest? Or who hath stretched the line upon it? Whereupon are the foundations thereof fastened? Or who laid the cornerstone thereof? When the morning stars sang together, and all the sons of God shouted for joy? Or who shut up the sea with doors when it brake forth, as if it had issued out of the womb? When I made the cloud the garment thereof, and thick darkness a swaddling band for it. And I brake up for it my decreed place, and set bars and doors. And he said, Hitherto shall thou come, but no further, and here shall thy proud waves be stayed. Now, I feel there's some kind of link to the Lord Jesus Christ, and it's talking about I made the cloud the garment thereof, and the thick darkness a swaddling band for it. I feel there's some kind of connection to when the Lord was born, and he was brought forth, and he was wrapped in clothed in swaddling clothes. But that's not where I'm going with this today. So anyway, also notably that you notice here right at the end, the proud waves shall be stayed. It was like the thick darkness prevented the pride from getting in to where God wanted it to go. Okay, and you know that the Lord abhors pride, so keep that in mind. So then we have the last verse we're going to look at, Joel 2 verses 1 and 2. Blow ye the trumpet in Zion, and sound an alarm in my holy mountain. Let all the inhabitants of the land tremble, for the day of the Lord cometh, for it is nigh at hand, a day of darkness and of gloominess, a day of clouds and of thick darkness. As the morning spread upon the mountains, a great people and a strong, there hath not been ever the like, neither shall be any more after it, even to the years of many generations. Okay, so that's talking about the day of the Lord, and hopefully you'll have seen a kind of common denominator running through these, and that is that the thick darkness and clouds make a reference to God's presence. Okay, now the most kind of tenuous one on that would be the first one we looked at, which is the penultimate plague of Egypt. You know, in all the other ones, you could kind of see God directly being there. Obviously, he was in the mountain with Moses, he was in the Temple of Solomon. It's God's presence will be accompanied by a thick darkness on the day of wrath. And when God was creating everything, he had a thick darkness to bind up the sea. So everything's really close to God. Now, this 9th penultimate plague of Egypt, I don't think it's irrelevant. And I don't know, I'm kind of speculating here. I don't really like just chucking out theories unless I've got scriptures to base what I'm saying upon. But we know that from the timeline that the tribulation begins in 2021. And maybe there's going to be some other kind of Moses type plagues that's going to be involved, and the thick darkness is showing us that like there's one more major event to come, so kind of maybe keep that in mind. We'll just have to wait and see how it pans out. But what I really feel this is in reference to is if we have God's presence, and you have to have some kind of knowledge of what the scriptures say about the end times. But we know that in the middle of the tribulation, the Antichrist commits the abomination of desolation in the temple. At the moment, the temple's not built. And for him to do that, I don't know, does the temple have to be built at the start of the tribulation? Like, does it have to be ready so that he can cause the sacrifice to cease? It's going to have to get built soon. So I believe that this verse about the thick darkness is God showing us that this will be the beginning, the construction of the third temple. And interestingly, Donald Trump's peace plan or deal of the century between Israel and Palestine leaves the door open for this possibility. So there's a video here you can check out. Where are we? This one here, peace plan hints at a third temple. It's 23 minutes long. Yeah, I would advise checking that out. I'm not going to go all into it, but essentially what the guy's saying is that this peace plan, which many of the Palestinians are up in arms about, leaves the option open for the temple to be rebuilt. In this video, he's saying potentially alongside the Dome on the Rock. We need to wait and see how that pans out, but I really believe that this is what's going to happen. So, yeah, just watch that video and see what you think. Also, we read that the people in the original 2021 verse, we read that the people stood afar off as Moses entered into God's presence. Is this symbolic of the world and how they react to the Jews and Israel? So the world will stand afar off and in awe as the Jews, Israel, enter into the Lord's presence when the temple begins to get rebuilt. Because I don't believe there will be I don't know how to put it, there'll be some kind of spiritual aspect to this getting rebuilt. It won't just be like a construction crew going along and building it and then, oh, by the way, that's the temple ready. There's going to be, this will send shockwaves throughout the earth is what I'm saying, is when this starts to get built. And I really feel, you can feel it now, the fear of the Lord's growing, but people are going to be uneasy towards the Jewish people initially when this starts to happen, because the Jewish people will be, their confidence will go to another level, and everybody that doesn't really understand is going to be like, what's going on here? I don't really understand this. So you could see how they would be standing afar off as this event happened and being uneasy by what's going on. So yeah, that's, I believe the first verse is showing us that this will be the construction of the third temple beginning. Okay, so let's take a look at the second verse. This is Leviticus 20, verse 21. And if a man shall take his brother's wife, it is an unclean thing. He hath uncovered his brother's nakedness. They shall be childless. So when I read this, the conviction I got was that, is this going to be the big perversion that gets pushed in the year 2021? Because if you're discerning, if you're aware of what's going on, you'll know that usually there's always some kind of ungodly agenda to try to normalize sin each year. So you have like sodomy, sodomite marriage, transgenderism, etc. Every year there's this big push by the leftist, satanic, anti-Christian media and celebrities, etc., to try and normalize sins that God abhors and hates, and to try and get the masses to embrace them, and to like, it's like they're trying to rewire people to what's right and what's wrong. Like you think about Isaiah 5:20, they're in a lot of trouble for doing this, and hopefully many of them will repent. But that's what's going on. These people are pushing an agenda to normalize sins, which for hundreds of thousands of years people knew were wrong. But because the Antichrist will be here just now, there's this boldness, this kind of power that evil people feel they have, that they can impose this upon other people. So from reading this verse here, the question is, will 2021 be the year when having sex with your brother's wife or sister's husband is promoted by satanic celebrities. So what I have here is I did some research into this, and I have some examples, some past, some present, and we're going to take a little look at them and just try and see if we can, if it's possible. You know, a lot of these things we're looking at, I mean, even though it's 1 year away, you're thinking, nah, they can't do this, but you need to look at the track record of some of these people and what they've been promoting before. And if they're serving Satan, there's basically nothing that they won't do. Why would they not do it? So, first up, this article here, apologies about the language, there's not really a lot I can do about that. This is the only article I could find on it. Yeah, this is Khloe Kardashian and what's his name? Scott Disick. So this is how do I put it? Like, you know, when you have like a tsunami happens, obviously the tsunami happens, all the water disappears, but it doesn't just come in as a tidal wave. There's normally like a ripple coming in beforehand, and then the big wave comes in. So she's not, to the best of my knowledge, come out and said she's been with this guy. She's denying it. But what's happened here is, I think we can have a little look. Where was it? These people have a lot of followers, is what I'm saying. I'm sure I saw it on our... Oh yeah, it's State, who boasts 139.1 million followers. So, if she is with this guy and she's denying it, you know, the seed has been planted to a lot of people that this is going on. And this is the weird thing about it, is so many people look up to these reprobates. They look up to them as aspirational, as where they want to be. And most of these people, they've just sold their soul to the devil, and he promotes them, gives them money and fame, but they promote his message. Now, you've got to remember that this is the family that Bruce Jenner came from, where he, you know, whatever, transitioned to Caitlyn. It's Bruce Jenner, yeah? Bruce Jenner, to the best of my knowledge, was the guy that kind of spearheaded this whole transgenderism thing. It's utter garbage, absolute garbage, ungodly, an abomination to God. But this is what I'm saying, there's these kind of watershed moments where, because of people like Bruce Jenner and the circus that goes with them, they've now, in their mind and a lot of other people's mind, established that transgenderism is a thing and it's defendable and it's right and you shouldn't condemn these people. It's demonic, it's of Satan, and these people have got a lot of unclean spirits in them, and they need deliverance. They don't need society to accept it and promote it. It's an abomination. But what I'm saying is, look at the fruit of these people. They were involved in that. You might say this person's not for it, that person's not for it. But as an entity, this family was used to promote that message. Yeah, I've heard people say she wasn't for it, doesn't speak to the guy. I'm just saying, take a real step back and see the fruit of these people is rotten. Absolutely rotten. I know Kanye West, it looks like he's been saved, and he's trying to work his way through the circus of the modern day church. There's Joel Osteens and all that are trying to get a hold of him and corrupt him, and it's really sad to see. But so hopefully, you know, he can get out of that and kind of get some clarity on what's going on. But what I'm saying is, the fruit of this family is rotten. You know, they're all divorced, remarried, and all that stuff. It's just rotten, ungodly, and a lot of people look to them, okay? So, again, whether she has or not, I'm just saying this seed has been planted with a lot of people. So let's look at the next one, and this is not speculation, this has actually happened. Now, this was a wee while ago, and this was, if you're not from Britain or you're further afield, you might not know, but there's a guy, a football player called Ryan Giggs, and he was having an affair with his brother's wife for years, and then got exposed. And that was kind of big news. So again, high profile people, the behaviour was condemned. It's not like Ryan Giggs is fallen from grace because of it. You know, there's still a lot of people look up to him. He'll still have an influence. Maybe not as much, but what I'm saying is this sin has been put out there into the kind of atmosphere or the ether, if you want, for something people to think about, because in a lot of people's mind, they'll be looking at this thinking, well, when he was doing this, he was winning. He was winning, he was winning. I know it's a simple way to think, but a lot of people think like that, okay? So you can read the article more if you want, but it's more to highlight the fact that this is concrete. This isn't like the Kardashian thing where people are speculating. This is concrete, this happened, and a lot of people would have been made aware of it, okay? So that they were like a little bit in the past, and they would have had some kind of, I don't know, it would have got to people's minds, okay, is what I'm kind of getting at. So what I've got in these next few are, right, what about recent incidents of this actually happening? Okay, so the first link here, let's have a look. That is this one here. This is, let me just see that I got that in the right order. No, that's not in the right order. Right, okay, so this is February the 12th, 2020. Woman having sex with sister's husband exposed by his girlfriend. So I'm not going to get into the sordid details, but all I'm saying is you can see this has happened, okay? If you want to read more about it, you can have it. That's all I really need to know. Somebody was caught doing it. Obviously, this has been going on for a while. You know, these kind of sins, if it was in Leviticus, it's something that would have happened. But what I'm saying is we're looking for it to be in the same way that sodomy and that were always going on. We're looking to see if people are promoting this and if there's an increase in the amount of people partaking. That's kind of what I'm getting at with this. We have this one here. My sister ran away with my husband to US. Gospel singer Gloria Doyle. That was February 23rd this year. And then this is the one that, when I was looking into this is just something I want to touch on, okay? Because it says here in this article, this was May 10th last year. Man commits suicide after sex with brother's wife. Now, bear with me on this, okay? Let's go back one to this one here about the Kardashians. See this here. Bye, beautiful. Caroline Flack's best friend rally around late star's boyfriend Lewis Burton and choose love t-shirts on the day of her funeral. How's this related, okay? Bear with me. Caroline Flack was a woman who got exposed for beating boyfriends, okay? She was like a TV personality, and I think her current boyfriend and her ex both confirmed that she was involved in beating them, okay? And as a result, there was a big backlash, and she would have got trolled, etc. online, and her reputation took a nosedive, okay? And obviously, this affected her to the extent where she killed herself. She committed suicide. And rather than, I don't know, maybe people taking a hardline approach that don't do these things, this is bad, there's a consequence. This leftist, malleable, mealy-mally society has tried to change it, that like, don't be nasty to people. It doesn't matter what they've done, don't be nasty. Because people were so nasty to her, she's had to kill herself. There was another, and it's like, yeah, she had to admit she's a sinner. She felt the heat, and she should have turned to Jesus Christ, and she would have been completely forgiven of everything. But Satan doesn't want things like that. He wants to change the environment and make everybody mealy-mally and don't condemn sin. So I saw this here and I was thinking, he shouldn't have done that, okay? We all sin, we all do things wrong, and Jesus forgives us, okay? But this man has committed suicide after having sex with his brother's wife. Obviously, he got exposed. And what I'm saying is suicide wasn't the way out. Jesus Christ is the way out. But you can see how Western society can use these events to further degenerate society. To, oh, even though he's done this, you shouldn't say it's wrong. Yes, you should say it's wrong. But beyond it being wrong, Jesus Christ will forgive you. Not everybody has to walk on eggshells and say nothing about evil. Do you get what I mean? So anyway, let's go back to the article now. Back to the PDF, should I say? Before let's have a look at some scriptures. I'm giving you the 2021 scriptures, some events that have been happening, but let's tie this back to the Word of God, okay? So let us consider John the Baptist, Herod, and Herodias. What punishment did John the Baptist receive for telling Herod, "It is not lawful for thee to have thy brother's wife"? Mark 6:18. His head was cut off. Okay? Herodias, to be honest, was the one that hated this that much that she wanted John the Baptist's head cut off, because she did not want to be told that she was in sin. She wanted to have her sin and enjoy it, and anybody that came against her, it was like the more wicked her sin was, the more severe the punishment was for the person reproving her. Okay? So let's have a read about this in Mark 6, verses 19 to 24. Therefore Herodias had a quarrel against him, and would have killed him, but she could not, for Herod feared John, knowing that he was a just man and unholy, and observed him. And when he had heard him, he did many things, and heard him gladly. And when a convenient day was come, that Herod on his birthday made a supper to his lords, high captains, and chief estates of Galilee, and when the daughter of the said Herodias came in and danced, and pleased Herod, and them that sat with him, the king said unto the damsel, Ask of me whatsoever thou wilt, and I will give it thee. And he sware unto her, Whatsoever thou shalt ask of me, I will give it thee, unto the half of my kingdom. And she went forth and said unto her mother, What shall I ask? And she said, The head of John the Baptist. So Herodias was just waiting on her opportunity. She'd been fizzing, fuming in a rage, trying to think how she can get her revenge on John the Baptist. So I don't know if this is relevant. I'm just going to chuck this out there. Mark 6, 18, 18, that's 3 6s. And how are those that refuse the mark of the beast killed? They have their head chopped off. Okay? Obviously this does not happen until later in the tribulation, i.e. the second half. But we know that when the gospel is preached during the first half of the tribulation, those that hear and don't believe the testimony of the two witnesses are tormented by their words. You read that in Revelation 11:10. And so are Herodias' emotions and actions prophetic of how unbelievers will view Christians that condemn this sin. This emotional resentment and hatred towards those that uphold God's moral law would surely fester and grow in an unbeliever until, like Herodias, they have an opportunity to kill those that expose their ungodly behaviour. Let's have a look at John 16 verses 1 to 3. These things have I spoken unto you, that you should not be offended. They shall put you out of the synagogues. Yea, the time cometh that whosoever killeth you will think that he doeth God service. And these things will they do unto you, because they have not known the Father nor me. Then we have Luke 21 verses 12 to 17. But before all these, they shall lay their hands on you and persecute you, delivering you up to the synagogues and into prisons, being brought before kings and rulers for my name's sake. And it shall turn to you for a testimony. Settle it therefore in your hearts not to meditate before what ye shall answer, for I will give you a mouth and wisdom, which all your adversaries shall not be able to gainsay nor resist. And ye shall be betrayed both by parents and brethren and kinsfolk and friends. And some of you shall they cause to be put to death, and ye shall be hated of all men for my name's sake. And then we have Matthew 24 verses 9 to 14. Then shall they deliver you up to be afflicted, and shall kill you, and ye shall be hated of all nations for my name's sake. And then shall many be offended, and shall betray one another, and shall hate one another. And many false prophets shall rise, and shall deceive many. And because iniquity shall abound, the love of many shall wax cold. But he that shall endure unto the end, the same shall be saved. And this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all the world for a witness unto all nations, and then shall the end come. So we can see that at the moment things aren't in that situation. You know unbelievers, I know unbelievers, they don't believe, they don't agree with you, but the hatred to kill you, if it's there, it's certainly not manifest, and they're certainly not acting upon it in Western society. Obviously you go to some further afield places like North Korea, China, parts of Africa, it's barbaric the way they treat Christians. But in the West, this is not what we're encountering just now, and we know that something's going to happen where we are encountering this. So something must happen in the hearts of unbelievers to excite them to such measures, and the example of Herod and Herodias may be the key to understanding this. Also, just to kind of note here, if the punishment of this sin is being childless, would this further add to the following passage? And we have Luke 21 verses 22 and 23. For these be the days of vengeance, that all things which are written may be fulfilled. But woe unto them that are with child, and to them that give suck in those days. For there shall be great distress in the land, and wrath upon this people. So it's hard to foresee so many people partaking in this sin. But if this and other sins were so fully embraced by unsaved people, would their hearts be darkened and hardened towards those that can have children because they have embraced a sin or a lifestyle that means they will be childless? So I know there's that film, I think it's Children of Men, something like that. What's that actor's name? He was in Inside Man. Anyway, there's a film, and it's kind of set in the future, and people can't have children anymore. And obviously, kids going into tribulation is not a good situation to be in. It's written, woe unto them that with child and give suck in those days. But is this purely because of the enemies from the heavenlies, or is this a combination of unbelievers having such hatred towards those that are believers? We need to wait and see how that pans out, but I just kind of felt conviction to add this in because, like I said, the punishment for this sin is being childless, and if you're not partaking in this sin and you would have the ability to have children, a lot of people would hate you for that, especially if they're unbelievers. Okay, so let's move on. The next we have verse 3 that we're going to look at, and this is Numbers 20:21. Thus Edom refused to give Israel passage through his border, wherefore Israel turned away from him. Now this is a big one, okay? Edom was Esau, and Esau was Jacob's brother. But we can see here that Edom refuses to help Israel, and so Israel turns away. Now, Israel was Jacob, okay? Abraham, Isaac, Jacob. So is this symbolic of an ally refusing to help Israel, and thus Israel going solo and becoming vulnerable? Okay, now the only person that could apply to would be America. America has historically been an ally of Israel since Israel was reborn as a nation in 1948, and America, the USA, is almost like a big brother to Israel. They're always looking out for them. Okay, so how is it possible for Israel to become vulnerable and come under attack if USA provides protection for Israel? How is that possible? Because any global power that wants to go against Israel knows they have America to deal with. So that keeps them in check. But if some kind of conflict was happening between America and Israel, where America withdrew its protection, that would make Israel very vulnerable. Well, we'll see about that, but a lot of people would perceive it that Israel are vulnerable. Okay, so on this theme I have a few articles that I want to look at. The first one maybe doesn't seem so relevant, but let's have a quick look at it. Republicans Tlaib and Omar are refused entry into Israel. Now, America was for this. Okay, this is going the other way. This is Americans going into Israel, and we have here Donald Trump saying that Israel would be shown weakness if these people who are so anti-Israel and pro-Palestine were allowed in. They hate the Jewish people, so don't let them in. All I'm getting at is this is a kind of precedent between America and Israel. To the best of my knowledge, this is not something that's been going on. And this article was last year. So I'd done the timeline, I think, by that point. I can't remember, but I saw this article and I was like, this could be like the early kind of tremors. I don't know if it led to anything, but as you can see from that article there and Trump tweeting, Donald Trump loves Israel. So how could this possibly play out? If Donald Trump loves Israel, why would he turn his back on them? So then, quite recently, there was these two articles came out, and I thought this was like really, really insightful. So the first one we have is Israelis accuse US of election meddling with timing of Trump's peace plan. So a bit strange, if you think about it. The peace plan is good for Israel, but they're not happy about it, and they're vocalizing that. You can read more about this in the article, but that's the kind of black and white of it. You can see that there was people within Israel weren't happy about this because they felt he was meddling with the election. Does that come from higher up or just from the people? We don't know, but it's something that's come out of there. Okay, the peace plan went in. There was a reaction of people saying, we're not happy about this actually, Trump. We're not happy about you doing this. And that was February the 3rd. And then in reaction, on February the 9th, we have US envoy warns Washington could pull support as Israel unilaterally starts drawing map for West Bank annexations. So we have some kind of vocalization against America, and then a few days later, we have America saying, we'll pull our support in. We'll pull our support. So I know it's on a micro level, but what I'm getting at is if something was to be, if we play this dynamic up many more levels, say Israel comes out and is not happy with America or something, America might say, you know what, you're on your own. So we'll see. Personally, I feel conviction that is it because Israel has begun to rebuild the temple that they have a renewed faith that God will protect them, and therefore they do not feel they need America's protection, and so they will now disregard any advice from the USA. It's like, now we've got God protecting us, we don't need you. We're getting our temple, and this is a major thing for the Jewish people, having their temple. And if they see that, and America's telling them not to do things, they might just be, we don't need your advice. We've got the temple. The Lord's going to protect us. Their faith, their confidence will have gone up so much since the beginning of this temple being rebuilt. Just recently, there's been this coronavirus. I don't know if that in any way fits into it, as in like there seems to be a lot of lockdown going on. I don't know. Is it possible that this plays into? I don't know. I'm looking at these scriptures and I'm trying to use the Bible and what's going on to understand succinctly what that actually means for us. Yeah, but I can't see, there's things we're going to look at further on in this study. I can't see how they will transpire if America is giving Israel the full protection. Okay, so we're going to look at number 4 next, but we're just going to end this study here just now, okay?